Welcome to the new edition of the ABBA League magazine. In the 12th round, always a difficult trip to Zadar for Partizan. The young and hot cross-swords in Sremska Mitrovica as Megalex hosted Metalac. Cibona needed a win against the Macedonian champion MZT. And the derby game was in Podgorica, where Budućnost wanted to remain unbeaten against Cedevita. And Crvena Zvezda was chasing a record-tying 12th successive win against Igokea, and of course you won't miss the best 5 actions of the round. Start with the news. After being expelled from the match again, this time in a game against Megalex, Duško Vujošević receives a further suspension of 3 games and a financial fine of a little over 3,000 euros as well. Mladen Jeremić fails to live up to the expectation and is not with Igokea anymore. In spite of being brought in only this summer, he's replaced by Dusan Katnić, a former Anwil player who also last year played 5 games in the ABBA League when he signed for the Radnički in the second part of the season, where he averaged 5.8 points per game. And Budućnost decided to part ways with Aleksandar Čapin, an MVP of the league only 2 seasons ago. After that, he had an injury-plagued following season and had this year struggled for form, as he only averaged 12 minutes and 3 points per game. We start with the highlights in Ljubljana. Still no Salin and Nicolo for the hosts, who were confident nevertheless, as the last place team was the opponent, with Levski in the middle of a 9-game losing streak as well. The home team opening the game well, with Kremen Plepelic hitting from distance. He eventually finished the game on 12 points. Nikolaj Varbanov was the first to score for the visitors. He also had a decent game with 14 points in the end. Olimpija was quick to escape to a 10-point lead when Marko Marinovic made it 16-6 with a 3. The lead was soon to 14 points as Dino Muric was taking his claim in the first quarter already. The home team capped the first period nicely as Rupnik found a lovely pass to Kanacevic, who made it 30-17. Levski did regroup at the start of the second quarter as they scored 7 points in a row and were only trailing the hosts by 6 when Jurovski scored. But that was only briefly, as Muric was making Omic's assist count to put his team back to a 10-point lead. Luka Rupnik was really enjoying passing the ball around. This time he found Omic with a lovely no-look pass as the duo combined to make it 44-31. Rupnik was also the last player to score in the first half. He set the score of 55-42. At the start of the third period, Levski managed to cut the deficit to 9 points through Dimitrov, but Marinovic provided the answer for Olimpija as he fired twice for free to put his team back to a 13-point lead. Levski wasn't done trying though, as Dimitar Angelo then scored 6 in a row to close the gap back to 9 points, and the Bulgarians managed to reduce it further to 7 points come the end of the third period, as Olimpija only managed to score 8 points in the entire quarter. That was all made up for at the start of the last period, as the home team recorded a run of 11 successive points, and by the time Muric scored 2 of his 22 altogether, Olimpija was 18 points in front. Bad timing for the guests to go 4 minutes without scoring, with Dimitar Dimitrov finally breaking a deadlock to make it 74-58. The same player scored the next 6 points for Levski and closed the gap to 14. But Marko Marinovic was really hot that night, as he secured the next 8 points for the Ljubljana outfit, eventually finishing the game on 23 points. And after this run, the opponent as well, as it was clear Levski wouldn't come out of that one on the right side. A clear win for Olimpija. It finished with 89-70. The Hungarian and Slovenian champion met in Hungary, with Krka desperate to end a run of 5 straight defeats. There was some good news though for the visitors, as they had a full roster at their disposal after quite some time, while the home team was without Peter Lorant and Marko Brkic. David Vojvoda opened this game with a 3, and at the other end it was Matej Rojc who got things going for Krka. Solnok was ahead by 4 when Strahina Milošević dunked nicely, and after that Krka succeeded in scoring from distance in their 7th attempt when Jasmin Hukic made it 11-10. 13-10 after the low-scoring first period. The first 8 points of the second quarter were scored by the home team, with Stefan Sinovic rounding up a run of 10 successive points for Solnok, who escaped to a 21-10 lead. After 2 minutes, Malcolm Armstead got things going for the Slovenian champion in the second period. It was a poor performance from the league's leading scorer, though, as he only managed 8 points, wasting 10 shots in the process. New highest lead of 12 and Milosevic scored for 3, but that was then followed by a run of 7 consecutive points from the visitors. It was only behind by 4, and that was also the margin come the end of the first half. Solnok was still in front after the interval when Teddy Gibson scored 5 in a row, and he made it 39-33. But again, Krka managed to quickly reduce the deficit as Jasmin Kukic scored 8 of his 18 altogether in the third quarter. Then Milosevic scored 2 important baskets, which gave Solnok an advantage of 5 points before the last 10 minutes of their game. In the last period, Chris Booker closed the gap to 4 points, but then the home team scored the next 6, 5 of which were contributed by David Vojvoda, and some 5 minutes before the end, Solnok was nurturing a 10-point lead. Still, Krka was close, mainly through Chris Booker, who managed to get the visitors back to a 5-point deficit, and his team went then close to get a chance to close the gap even further. But Lazaric Jones then scored an all-important basket, which gave Solnok a 7-point lead just a minute and a half to go. It proved to be crucial as Mulalic scored to put Krka just 2 points behind with only 10 seconds remaining on the clock. But Solnok's win was confirmed from the free throw line by Teddy Gibson, in which this is the 6th success of the season by the Hungarians, while Krka's run of defeats now gets stretched to 6 games. 4,000 people turned up in the Krešimir Ćosić Hall for a traditional duel between Zadar and Partizan, who was forced to play without their suspended coach Duško Vujošević, again replaced by Velimir Gašić. Josip Sobin opened the scoring in this match with 4 successive points, while at the other end Partizan went the first 4 minutes without scoring when Nikola Milutinov finally got the guests going. The teams were equal for the first time when Milan Mačvan made it 10 apiece, and the low-scoring first period ended with the home team in front by 15-12. Zadar was quickly in front by 7 points at the start of the second quarter as Josip Sobin was continuing playing well. Milan Mačvan was the one keeping the visitors in it by scoring twice to make it 26-21. Zadar was already in front by 9 points when Filip Kraljevic scored 2 in a row, and the hosts were 7 points to the good come the end of the first 20 minutes. Then the first 5 points of the second half was scored by the black and white from Belgrade as they closed the gap to just 2 points via Milenko Tepic. A bit later the deficit was further reduced to a single point when Gagic was successful. But that didn't stop the hosts to finish the half on a high as they scored the last 7 points to open up an 8-point lead going into the second half. At the beginning of the third quarter, James Florence picked up where he had left off, scored the first 3 and put his team into a double-digit lead for the first time in a game, and that prompted Partizan to respond in time, put together a run of 11 consecutive points, and when Milutinov scored, the deficit had shrunk to 2. Couldn't quite catch up with the hosts though, as Florence then scored 5 in a row to give Zadar a 6-point advantage some 3 minutes before the end of the match, but they couldn't count on their 2 important players till the end as both Kraljevic and Sobin were fouled out. When Dragan Milosavljevic scored for 3, the gap was just 4, but 39 seconds before time, Ive Ivanov scored an all-important basket to give Zadar the 6-point lead back. That wasn't the end of it though, as Partizan wouldn't just raise the white flag. Mihailo Andrić provided a couple of threes at the right time, and suddenly Partizan was only trailing the host by a point. Less than 4 seconds to go, the same player had a chance to take the game to overtime, but it only managed to score once from the free throw line, and Zadar was able to win this difficult game. Megalex and Metalac met in Sremska Mitrovica, with Mega with one more win in their account than the visitors from Valjevo. The first 5 points of the game were scored by the home team, and for Metalac it was Petar Rakicevic who opened the scoring. The home team was mainly scoring through fast transition game, and it was in front by 9-2 when Andrea Boyd scored. Mega was in front by 11 points when Marko Kešel scored for 3, and then the same player scored his 12th point already, and Megalex had opened up a 13-point advantage. It was 26-18 after the first 10 minutes, in which Slobodan Djundjerski was the last player to score. Metalac was only behind by a point when Dusan Kutlesic scored 10 points in less than 2 minutes, but the home team was quickly back to an 8-point lead when Alexander Marelja scored from the counter-attack. They were also in the double-digit lead again when Nenad Miljenovic scored 5 points in a row. The first half then finished with 52-43 after Dusan Kutlesic scored for 3 at the end of it. At the start of the third period, George Majstorovic first cut the deficit to 5 points, and then Metalac scored twice for 3 to equal the score to 59 when Malešević was successful. Then it was Mega's time to respond, which they did as Marko Kešel put his team back to a 5-point lead. Kešel eventually finished the game on 23 points and was the game's best scorer. And Rade Zagorac took his chance and scored 4 times in a row to put Megalex 15 points ahead before the last 10 minutes of the match. When Nemanja Krstic scored at the start of the last period, Megalex had taken a 17-point lead, and soon after that the home team was nurturing a new highest lead of the game of 20 when Zagorac was at it again, scoring twice for 3. The next 5 points were then scored by Marko Joshilot, but was really to no avail as the winner was already decided. The game ended with 99-82, with Megalex better in every statistical category than their opponent. The defending champion hosted MZT Skopje, and the home team had one more win to their name than the opponent from the Macedonian capital. Cibona with a good start to the match, as they were in front by 7-0 before Aleksandar Cvetkovic for the visitors opened the scoring at the other end. Jure Lalic was able to score 8 points in the first period, and after this action Cibona was in front by 11-5. When MZT scored for 3 for the first time in the game, Sead Čehović was able to put his team just 4 points behind, but then the home team again played better, and by the time Damir Markota was successful, Cibona was again 8 points to the good. The first period ended with Cibona in front by 21-15. Soon in the second period, Cibona had a 9-point advantage after Filip Krušlin scored for 3, but then the next 5 were scored by Boban Stajic as he put MZT 6 points behind their hosts. After that, it was time for Ivan Siriščević to play well, and after he scored a few times, Cibona had a double-digit lead for the first time in the match. MZT was quick to close the gap back to 6 points after Sead Čehović scored 5 in a row. Still, Cibona had an 8-point advantage come the end of the first half, courtesy of Jure Lalic, who was able to make a good pass from Marko Jagodić count. Dion Dixon was then precise from distance as he quickly fired twice right after the interval, but Cibona was still keeping the visitors at bay, this time again through Ivan Siriščević. Uroš Lucic then scored 3 times in a row to again put the guests just 5 points behind when he made it 55-50. The visitors were able to cap a run of 8 successive points, and after 30 minutes the visitors were only trailing the hosts by a single point. But that was short-lived as well, as Cibona staged an all-out offensive at the start of the last 10 minutes, scoring the first 9 points and quickly escaping back to a double-digit lead. MZT picked up a bad timing to not score for 5 minutes, after which Šehović was finally able to end that black run and put it to 64-55. But then Jure Lalic scored twice in a row to make it 68-57, as the visitors couldn't score from open play. Finally, Owen Klassen managed to do that, but of course, much too late. Cibona eventually won the last period by 14-7, and that was enough to win and leave MZT with just 4 wins this season. More than 3,000 people turned up to see the second and the third place team cross swords in the Morača Hall. The team from Zagreb, fresh from an unexpected loss to Zadar, opened the scoring in this match through Miro Bilan, and at the other end it was another tall player, Darko Planinic, his great rival of course from last year when he played for Cibona. Then the visitors scored 2 consecutive 3-pointers, and Tomislav Zupčić had put them into an 8-2 lead. A bit later, Cedevita was able to repeat that feat, and after Nemanja Gordic scored from distance, they were in front by 8. Then Suat Šehović scored the next 5 points, after which Budućnost was only trailing the visitors by 2. But again, Cedevita fired twice from distance to give the hosts new headaches, as they again escaped to an 8-point lead. At this point, the guests had missed a shot for 3 from their 6 attempts. At the start of the second period, Budućnost was quick to close the gap to 2 points after Bojan Subotic was successful, but Cedevita again managed to keep the hosts at bay, as Miro Bilan scored twice in a row and dunked to make it 35-30. Then Šehović managed to equal the score for the first time since the opening of the match, and then the home team took the lead as well when Nikola Ivanović scored 5 in a row to set the result of the first half, which ended with 41-38. Cedevita opened the third period with another 3, as Tomislav Zupčić equaled the score to 41, and after that Suat Šehović equaled the score for the last time in the game when he made it 43-43. That was followed by 10 consecutive points from the visitors, and when Rokolini Ukic scored, Cedevita equaled their highest advantage of 8. Cedevita won the third period by 17-8, and the result after 30 minutes was 55-49. At the start of the last 10 minutes, Cedevita took a double-digit lead for the first time in the game, as Luka Babic rounded up a 16-4 partial for their guests from Zagreb. Then Aleksa Popovic scored 7 in a row to close the gap to 5, and then the home team managed to cut the deficit to a single point when Vitkovac scored from the free-throw line. And the next offense, Nemanja Gordic with a lucky basket, after which Cedevita was 4 points to the good. After that, the team from Zagreb scored another 2 3-pointers, and when Ramljak succeeded in scoring from open play for the first time in the match, the gap was again 10. J.R. Reynolds was playing well in the last quarter, in which he scored 8 points, and with this action he closed the gap to 8. But Budućnost couldn't come any closer. It ended with 80-70, with Cedevita scoring as many as 12 3-pointers from only 15 attempts, and managed to win a very difficult game away from home. The leading team of the league hosted the Bosnian champion Igokea in the Pioneer Hall. No Marcus Williams for this one for Crvena Zvezda, for which Nemanja Dangubic opened the scoring, and for the visiting team it was one of their best players, Duško Bunic. When a former Crvena Zvezda player, Branko Jorovic, scored, Igokea was in front by 7-2. But then the next 5 points were scored by the home captain Luka Mitrovic as he rounded up a 12-2 run for the home team, which took the lead, of course, after this action of 14-9. Towards the end of the first period, Igokea managed to equal the score to 19, but Crvena Zvezda was still able to win the first period, albeit by the smallest of margins. Mike Cirbes opened the second quarter well, and after he scored, the home team was in front by 5 points. It wasn't long before Igokea managed to equal the score again as Jonathan Jones scored and drew a foul as well. After that, Crvena Zvezda was able to open up a 10-point lead, and that was also the margin come the end of the first half, which ended with 43-33 as Nemanja Dragovic was the last player to score in the first 20 minutes. At the start of the third period, Zvezda was quick to equal their highest lead of 12 points as Branko Lazic was stealing balls and dunking. Still, Igokea was able to cut the deficit to 7 points as Duško Punic was winning battles under the basket. Then it was Jaka Blažic's turn to score 5 in a row, after which Zvezda took a new highest lead of 13. And Igokea played better, scored 8 successive points and reduced the deficit back to 7. Stefan Jovic then almost scored from an impossible position, but was a fraction too late. Too bad, this one's not coming in our 5 best actions. At the start of the last 10 minutes, Igokea charged well to only trail the hosts by 2 when Katnic was successful, and after that Duško Punic made sure the visitors would finally catch the hosts when he equaled the score to 64. And then after a 15-0 partial for the visitors, it took more than 4 minutes for Crvena Zvezda to score before Marjanovic made it 66-64. Igokea even took the lead a little less than 5 minutes before time when Jorovic scored 3, but it didn't last long as Marjanovic managed to score and draw a foul as well to give the hosts the lead back. Little over a minute before the end of the game, Kalinic missed his stride, but it was deemed as a foul from Jonathan Jones. And after the subsequent free throws, Crvena Zvezda retook the lead of 5 points, and the result of 76-71 was also the final score as Igokea couldn't score anymore in the 2 minutes remaining. It was a record equaling 12 successive win for Crvena Zvezda. So, no trouble for Olimpija against Levski, while Krka remains in a deep crisis. A good win for Zadar against Partizan, while Cedevita was able to defeat Budućnost in their own court. Slightly more work for Crvena Zvezda than expected, but they do equal Olimpija's record from the inaugural season of 2001. No change at the top. In spite of Budućnost's defeat against Cedevita, they remain 3rd place, while Olimpija remains in 4th. Still great congestion in the middle of the table, while Levski from Sofia remains far behind everybody else in the league. Let's take a look who was playing the best in this round. It's Nenad Miljenovic, who is the most valuable player of the 13th round with a playing index of 30. He managed that with 15 points, 3 rebounds, 3 steals and as many as 11 assists in the 27 minutes he played against Metalac. And now let's take a look at the best 5 actions of the 13th round. Number 5, Nemanja Gordic, beating the buzzer with this shot. It was all important as well, as Cedevita was able to win in Podgorica. Number 4, this counter-attack, which was of course concluded by Strahinja Milošević with a lovely dunk. Number 3, it's Cedevita again, a great collective action, finished off by Miro Bilan. Number 2, a great drive from Nikola Mališević, which of course concluded by a nice dunk. This is our second best action of the round, and the best one comes from this counter-attack Jonathan Jones dunking it nicely after running through the whole of the court and of course drawing a foul as well. Igor Kea versus Mega Lex is the first match of the 13th round, which features an all-important Slovenian derby in Novo Mesto. The next day is the derby day as well, as Budućnost arrives in Belgrade to play Partizan. The round finishes on Monday with MZT hosting Crvena Zvezda. And that's all for today. Do join us again next time. Until then, it's bye-bye.